Now on BBC Two, a change of programme. As news broke last week of the attempted Soviet coup, Tim Sebastian was filming in Moscow for assignment and had exclusive access to key figures in the Russian parliament, the main centre of resistance. Witnessing the momentous events from inside, he now presents a diary of the coup.
For the first time, said a young Muscovite this week, I'm proud to be Russian. Words that come at the end of the most sudden and violent test of political strength here between the powers of the Soviet Union. Exactly a week ago, an attempted coup was set in motion, and for 2.5 days, the enormous power here was out of control. Now, scarcely an hour goes by without one of the accepted idols falling or being smashed. Mr. Gorbachev ordering the confiscation of Communist Party property, the name and image of the Soviet Union being systematically ripped out of every aspect of Soviet life. But let's take the story back exactly a week ago, with the writing firmly on the wall here in Moscow, and nobody prepared to read it. Sunday, August the 18th. Less than a mile from the Kremlin, Moscow's elite was at a special swimming pool closed to the general public. They were 7 summers into the Gorbachev era, ignoring months of warning about impending political crisis. It was playtime for the influential and the privileged, part of the new class that wanted a life free from slogans and Marxist dogma. To them, parties were for fun, not for joining. But across town, in the Russian parliament, the strains were showing. Mikhail Tolstoy, deputy and weapons physicist, profoundly concerned about the all-union treaty scheduled for signing 2 days away by Boris Yeltsin and Mikhail Gorbachev. A landmark in the loosening of the Kremlin's power. Or was it?
New discussion now, in these days. What will happen 20th of August? Is it according to Constitution or not? The sign of Yeltsin, which is predicted under the Union Treaty. And his treaty with Gorbachev, nobody now knows what is the clandestine treaty between Gorbachev and Yeltsin. Nobody knows to what result they came with each other.
Below the outward calm of the city, someone seems to have known the truth about the treaty or disliked the prospect of it sufficiently to plan a coup. In any case, the hardliners had plenty of cause for concern. At the nation's most respected seat of learning, the Academy of Sciences, they were moving towards a public admission unacceptable to the Communist Party, the total failure of its system.
This ideology led us not in the right direction, but not to the happy life, but to the crisis, to the deadlock, you see, like this.
So it was wrong?
Yes, absolutely wrong. It's not a successful experiment from my point of view. Not successful experiment.
Also unsuccessful was the kind of democracy that Gorbachev introduced, pleasing no one and uniting the population only in their criticism of him. On the eve of the coup, an uncanny warning from inside the Russian parliament, the focus over the days to come.
Democracy in Russia. Don't know what does it mean, democracy in Russia. Forever was a struggle with guns and with hacks, what you have in the hand. You beat each other, beats each other. This is democracy, house.
Russian style.
In the democracy of Russian style. And we see that here democracy doesn't work efficiently, because democracy is not quite according to our mentality.
Monday, the 19th of August, was marked in Moscow in two ways, one of them already forgotten. The historic opening of the Uspensky Cathedral inside the Kremlin for a special service of reconciliation for Russian emigres. They'd come to Moscow expecting to find a new Russia and the civil war finally at an end. They found neither.
What were you doing in the early hours after it happened?
Looking for supporters. We had no well-arranged structure. We lost time during 6 years. Now we will never lose time.
Gorbachev is in prison now. We don't know what happened with Yeltsin. If this a new government take Yeltsin too, it will be war.
I expect nothing good at all. Just only the beginning of the end. That's all.
But across the city, they weren't giving up. In the middle of the frenzy, Mikhail Tolstoy was calling in his cards in the political melee, coordinating disobedience against the new decrees.
Нет, там собираются в час, чтобы посмотреть зал. They are not afraid. People are not afraid.
You're not afraid?
I am not afraid. Perhaps I think no. I think not. Perhaps I can be arrested. It's the day of the crisis of the perestroika, and not at the end. After the crisis, you perhaps, and with high probability, you became healthy and not die. Crisis is a very not pleasant, but a very important and useful thing. Without crisis, nothing moves.
From the Russian parliament, deputies were dispatched to tour the city and report on military deployments. More importantly, they were told to assess the mood of the troops.
You were near the building? No, because the way out is very narrow and very clever, like labyrinth. And it was very, it took very much time to go out of building in the car, because the way is very...
It's a secret exit?
No, maybe not so secret, but it is very complicated.
By Monday night, the coup leaders were in power, not because the people were obeying them, but because nobody else was in power. The Russian deputies continued to focus their efforts on the troops.
We went very often from the building. We saw how people gathering, saw the tanks, because first column of tank was stopped before building. And then our talking with soldiers and even officer who was command of this first group had an effect that tanks were put in 4 corners of building to defend our parliament. It was first military unit that went to our side.
Don't look for enemies personally. Against Gorbachev was everything, not everyone. but everything. He thought that he could win alone, but it could not be. That's it.
Who moved against him?
Everything. Not everybody, but everything. Inertia of thinking, fear. The people were afraid of everything. Communist Party, left opposition, crying, emotional opposition, and so on.
Did he have no friends?
He had many friends, but he believed most of all in his own power. He is very powerful, but one man cannot win this country.
So when 3 colonel generals came to arrest him, there was nobody around him to protect him?
This country has extremely rich experience on how arresting people.
Just that?
Absolutely.
The KGB were against him? They knew what to do?
Well, I suppose that if KGB were in this bloody crime group, it means that they were against him and against me.
By Tuesday, much of Moscow life ran normally. It wasn't a phony coup, it just didn't have the power to affect daily lives. At this point, the new authority said much and did little. Tolstoy didn't like the term authority at all.
They are not authority, I think. They are something between bandits and adventurists.
Adventurists.
Adventurists. They think what to do, how to make a new president. You can't kill him, because everybody immediately understands that you kill, even if he died by himself. But he decided to die. Nobody will trust you. New situation. They must keep him alive.
What if you're wrong about this? What if you're wrong that they do in fact have orders to shoot? There are reports of 20 kilometers of tanks stretching way out of Moscow,
In
each of the main roads.
this column,
What then?
in this column of 20 kilometers, I think, you have 19 kilometers of those who will never shoot in civil citizen. This situation now.
You're sure?
I'm absolutely sure.
With a bag of food for his friends, Tolstoy makes his way to the Russian parliament, planning for an indefinite stay. It's a session that will last until the demands for the coup leaders to give up are met. But his confidence isn't shared by many other political insiders in Moscow. Tolstoy is one of the most influential Democrats in the Russian Assembly, although at this point on Tuesday, democracy itself is in more trouble than he admits. He insists, though, that Russia has undergone permanent change that can't be reversed in a single night, and yet the challenges were clear. You warned Gorbachev that this could happen, didn't you?
Many people warned him about this, but he didn't believe.
What did he say?
He was telling that it cannot happen.
That the party would look after him?
His hope was that Communist Party can be democratized. It's a mistake. Communist Party cannot be democratized.
Outside Moscow's town hall, the tension was rising. With radio and television back under strict censorship, the people were desperate for information. Feelings are running pretty high among the people at the moment.
It doesn't matter, it's not bad. It's very normal. Emotions which are gathering during 75 years, once they should find the entrance.
The barricades were going up around the town hall as rumors multiplied that the army planned an assault. In the early evening, telephones inside the building were cut, and through intermediaries, the mayor attempted to contact Western embassies. Deputy Mayor Lyushkov received alarming information.
Нам известно о том, что готовился арест. Я уже вам говорил, руководителей города и других руководителей Российской Федерации. Были отработаны все адреса, где мы могли бы появиться, наших родственников и так далее. И даже было определено, мне кажется, это предварительно было, ну, по сути дела, решение такого в итоге не состоялось, определено время, когда, значит, нас должны были, значит, арестовать.
The arrests may have been headed off by an elite Black Beret unit loyal to Boris Yeltsin, but the danger was just beginning. Shortly before midnight, with a curfew hurriedly introduced, the mayor ordered the evacuation of the building. The mayor and his senior officials began moving around the city to evade detection. No one knew who was on whose side, but the confusion was spread evenly. In these hours, the Soviet Union was without effective government of any kind. KGB and army units had set up roadblocks all over the city. Officials had to turn off into the back streets to avoid detection.
А вот здесь вот мы не пройдем? Давайте, пройдем, да? Пройдем,
But throughout the night, deputies of the Russian parliament continued to argue with the soldiers on the streets and warn them not to attack.
I saw their mood, and I understood that he don't want to fight. It was very important for me. We saw the mood of army men, military men, and we saw that they don't want to be involved in fighting. Sometimes I felt that maybe they are near to cry, because they understood that, and I understood also that they were in a very difficult position. I understood it was my duty to be active, not to go away, of course not to be killed. I didn't want to be killed there, you understand that. I didn't want to be killed like hero also, because I am not a hero. I say you honest, I am not a hero. And I know many people who are much more brave than me.
Astafiev returned to the Russian parliament in the early hours of Wednesday morning, or tried to.
At that time we heard through radio that some people are killed. I heard it through radio. And after that, our chauffeur, our driver, said that he don't want to return to White House.
But he did take you.
No, he was afraid.
How did you get back to the parliament?
I said to him, let's go near house. Then I leave the car and go by feet. Half past 3, all the building was in the darkness, lifted, didn't work. So, and I saw many people sleeping in the darkness, sleeping near their windows. It was dark, calm. They were prepared maybe to die. I saw their mood. Yes, they were prepared to be killed.
Russia's Democrats had said that if they saw sunrise on Wednesday, they'd have a chance. But by then it was clear they had more than that. In the office of the deputy mayor, relative calm because he was still deputy mayor. He hadn't been attacked, arrested or intimidated, and he had his own slice of history to announce.
Я связался с командующим Московским военным округом и в категорической форме предложил покинуть Москву всем воинским подразделениям этого Московского военного округа. После этого я связался с министром обороны Язовым и также настаивал на удалении воинских подразделений немедленно из города Москвы. Это позор для города, позор для страны.
The chief of Moscow's police went in and came out, saying nothing in the city was anything to do with him. But elsewhere, the powerful and influential offered each other congratulations and heaped scorn on the renegades.
Our military men cannot manage any riots. They don't have the tradition. They don't know what to do. And now they are persuaded that they cannot do that. But at the same time, my personal optimism is very, I would like, maybe it is possible to say in English, hesitating.
Suddenly, there were urgent appointments to be kept in Moscow. The politicians who'd resisted the coup were gathering, anxious to name the names of those who hadn't. By early evening, the city had heard the news that Mr. Gorbachev had been freed and was flying back to the Kremlin. At an unprecedented session in the town hall, the leaders of Russia's democratic parties, more than 50 of them, welcomed the event. One by one, they demanded punishment for the men behind the coup.
Горбачев жив и будет скоро в Москве.
Alexander Yakovlev was one of the first advisors to talk by phone to Mr. Gorbachev, who was bringing back with him questions and suspicions. Yakovlev had already sought to head them off.
My feeling, personal feeling, that sure, he is against of this. It cannot be that he can be for this.
The celebrations, if any, were muted on that Wednesday night. The tanks were gone, but there was no sense of euphoria. Soviet elders, not knowing which way the new wind was blowing, took safety in an old practice. They praised the people.
Our pressure is one, only one, the hope for people. People, you know, which yesterday and night surrounded this building of the Russian parliament. My son all night was with these people, and me, I did not sleep today. No, just not 1 minute.
In the darkness, the Soviet Union steadied itself and regained a fragile equilibrium. The crisis wasn't over, and by Thursday morning, Mikhail Tolstoy admitted he had still drunk no champagne.
Are you going to celebrate?
I don't know how. I'm not happy, but I'm satisfied.
What now? What now in Russia?
Now in Russia, I think it will be rejected and thrown away, all the leaders of conservative type. Because previously, we can't do nothing with them.
Everything which is going against natural development should die. Those idiots did this bloody job without understanding what they're doing. It was absolutely clear that they will lose, but the problem was how to win them without blood.
That night, on the bridges over the Moscow River, the trains finally had a good reason to stop. Mr. Gorbachev was back in Moscow, his opponents behind bars. The party was official. But the celebrations didn't last long. In a park opposite Moscow's town hall sits a Gorbachev convert who's lost the faith. Businessman Gennady Alfarenko summoned here from Siberia 5 years ago because they liked his new thinking and he liked theirs. Now he's passed them by.
I will never now support Gorbachev. It's my principal decision. I will very strong now.
You used to support him a lot.
Yes, yes. I was admire Gorbachev. Now, no. He will be the most conservative person now in our society. He didn't understand absolutely what's going on inside. He looked like from another planet decided to visit Soviet Union.
In the old days, Soviet governments rejected their people. Finally, it's the other way round.
Can the party
Yes.
be reformed? Can it be reformed?
It's impossible. It's impossible to reform this monument, Lenin monument. You see, what this Lenin monument? It's impossible to reform Lenin monument. It's only one way, to destroy Lenin monument or to save Lenin monument, like historical monument. Gorbachev now, he is historical monument. For me, and for millions of people in Soviet Union.
So it's only a matter of time before they pull him down like the other monuments?
I think so.
No long-term benefits then to Gorbachev from the 2.5-day coup. Russians united only to build their barricades, not to get him back. While he was interned, they were moving out of his league. The gulf between them now seems unbridgeable.
If the storm didn't begin in the darkness, so we have a chance.
Everything will be changed now. We're going to new life. I'm absolutely sure.
It was dark, calm. They were prepared maybe to die. I saw their mood. Yes, they were prepared to be killed.
This then was the Russian parliament earlier today, 24 hours after the casualties from the abortive coup were buried as heroes of the Soviet Union. A new shrine in the center of Moscow, and already a place of pilgrimage. It's perhaps better not to give a name to what happened here last week, for the political structure is delicate and badly damaged, and as events here have shown, nothing is irreversible. But what the Soviet people seem intent on doing is destroying the system that governed them for 3/4 of a century and sent its influence right around the world. Where this country goes from here is far from certain.